Alright, I'm about set up, ready to go. See, I have this small little rack that I can set petri dishes on to cool and out of the way. Some space underneath for the bag. I'm going to sanitize it with a spray bottle of alcohol. Easiest way to do it. Just give it a nice coating. I cleaned this up with bleach wipes as well. I'm going to put that about there. See here I have my alcohol lamp. A little bit of alcohol in it, denatured alcohol that I'll use to sterilize these syringes. I got one of each batch that were never frozen. See here. First thing I'm going to do is wipe down my alcohol lamp. Make sure it's clean all the way around. If the tip of the lamp is a bit dry, you can tip it upside down for a second until it wets up. Just don't get too much on it. I'm going to let this lamp dry off just a little bit. I don't want the entire thing catching fire when I light it. Always have a fire extinguisher nearby when doing any kind of lab work using an alcohol lamp and alcohol. I've never had, or I can't say that, I've had one emergency. It was small, but that was a long time ago. I had a not as good of a technique. Got my cooker here. I'm going to give it a little bit of a spray in the front just to clean it up. Wipe my hands with alcohol. I'm using powder-free, no powder, latex gloves. With one hand I'll open the cooker, and the other hand I'll keep clean. Grab the jar of agar. Grab this bag of dishes. Get that out of the way. And then wipe down the area where the pressure cooker was sitting. I'm actually put the cap back on this bottle of alcohol. I'm not going to use it right yet, of course. So I got my hands wiped down. Give this agar a bit of a stir to make sure that nothing is settled out in it. Get any of the charcoal bits mixed in well. Now one of the tricky parts is getting all these petri dishes out without them spilling all over. If you're doing this in a larger pressure cooker, you can use a petri dish rack. That'll be really easy to transport them out. I just kind of take my hands and kind of squeeze the plastic behind it and shimmy them forward. If the stack starts getting uneven, just get it straighten it back up, and then that'll be the bottom dish anyway. Not so graceful. There. Try not to handle them too much. Even if no water gets in the bag when you cook it, they'll still be wet on the outside and slippery. Also, too, you could buy better petri dishes that are stackable, that have a ridge around the top. These don't. I think these are like 100 millimeter dishes, larger than the typical dish. You can also use the standard pre-sterilized packaged plastic dishes, but I kind of recommend getting away from those just because every time I've ordered them in the mail, they've always arrived beat up. Some dishes are broken, some of the plastic sleeves have holes in them, and it renders the entire sleeve of dishes unsanitary. You'll get contamination. So buy a set of glass petri dishes. They're not very expensive. I've never broken one. They're pretty durable. Alright, so let's slide this over here so you can see. Give that another stir. I've let the agar in the pressure cooker sit for 1 hour after I cooked it for 50 minutes. And after 1 hour, it's still a bit warm, but it's not so hot that I can't handle the jar. Carefully take the foil off the top. And then go ahead, give yourself another alcohol sanitization. And then starting with the top dish, take the lid out, pour just enough to fully cover the bottom. It doesn't have to be real thick. Actually, the thicker it is, a lot of times the harder it is to cut wedges out. See how dark that is too. Just keep the dish level so the agar doesn't slop around inside of it. Don't want to fill it up too much too, because you'll end up spilling the agar out when you move the dish. See, I made just the right amount for 4 dishes, then a little extra. So I can wash that out now. I'll leave this dish here. That way, I can, when I do inoculations, I can sit those dishes on top of this, and it'll be more level with this filter. The space right here underneath can bring in air from the side just a little bit and cause some contamination. That's why you want to always keep whatever you're working with as close to the front of the laminar flow hood and as close to the center of it. Also too, alternatively, you can find another little shelf like this that's only like 1 inch high and have like a little 1 inch high shelf that keeps everything level with the flow hood. Either way works. So I'm going to let these dishes cool for about 1 hour. It probably don't even really take that long, but I want to guarantee that the agar is not hot when I inoculate it. Because if the agar is hot, when you put the spores on it, or a transfer of mycelium, it will kill the spores or the mycelium. Everything is cooled down. It's time to inoculate. Let me get my paper towel soaked with alcohol. And then I'm going to take my bottle and set it all the way over here, away from this flame. Go ahead and wipe the surface down again. Wipe my hands with alcohol. Going to make sure all of it dries. Again, that's why I like the 91%, because you can see how fast it dries off your hands, so you can continue working. I'm going to get my alcohol torch. Might have to probably light it away, out of the way. There we go. And it takes a few seconds for the flame to get going and pull up the alcohol. And then I'll set it right here in between the flow hoods, far enough away that it's safe from touching the hood. And the flame still stays lit because it's in between them. Get my first dish, grabbing it from the back side, if you will. Slide it up on there. I'll try from this first batch of king oyster spores. Could have just wiped these down ahead of time, really. Now, usually after these have been sitting around for a while, you got a whole lot of spores in there. You'll see them caked up on the bottom. So what you want to do to also dry the alcohol off is to put it between your fingers like that and wiggle it. And that will get the contents inside mixed up. I'm going to squirt out just a little bit to clear out the tip. You want to get it just hot enough that it pretty much sterilizes the end. It doesn't have to get red hot or anything. It just has to be enough that it sizzles a little. I'll squirt a little more liquid through there to cool it off. And then just about 2 drops. One there, one there. You don't want to put a whole lot of spore water on it. Actually, a little more than I wanted. And then you can see you can tilt it back and forth one direction to streak the drops across. Do that with this one as well. So go ahead and cap that. This one was from the syringes I made where the mushrooms were still growing and produced a thicker result. You can see, perhaps, see where they've settled on the bottom of the syringe right there towards the tip. Again, I'm gonna waggle it back and forth. See how well that mixed it all up. It's all cloudy in there. The more spores that are in the water, obviously the less you want to use, because fewer spores, if you remember, is a better situation than a lot of spores or a heavy spore inoculation. And that is because of the phenomenon that oyster mushroom spores and other good mushrooms, perfect mushrooms as they would call them, when their spores are interdispersed just right, they're able to beat out and trap any germinating mold spores or bacterial spores. To a degree, of course. And technically, all you really have to do is use boiled water and do this in a semi-sanitary environment, because the spores are so good at beating out competition. Much better than a liquid culture. Of course, when you're working with agar, though, you have to do that in a completely sterile environment. Got across. And it's as simple as that. Put it on, make sure my tips are good. I can now put this flame out carefully. Make sure you don't have any wet alcohol on your hands when you're doing that, otherwise you'll catch your hand on fire. Lots of things that can go wrong if you do not respect fire. And now we need to seal these petri dishes up. I've got some wax lab film. This brand is called Parafilm. I go ahead and wipe the roll of it down all around it, inside the wheel, clean it up. Then I'll take about 4 inches of film. See, I'm gonna fold it over like so it's double. Grab a dish. Since these big ones have a little bit of play to them, I'm gonna slide it forward to one direction. Get half it on the top, half it on the bottom. And gently pull. Rotate the dish, trying not to make any finger contact in the open areas, and then press it together. And then just for these large dishes, I'll take a second wrap, not fold it over. Just go over the entire dish. That helps when you're storing them stacked up. If you're observing them a lot, picking them up, the wax tends to stick to the dish below it. And sometimes as it gets dry, it'll start peeling away and want to open up a gap. So for the large ones, when you're fooling around, you want to double wrap. You want to pull the film slowly so that it stretches. If you pull it too fast, it'll snap on you. And you just got to add more of it. See the bottom sealed up too. It helps too if your room is a little bit warmer. If it's made of wax, it'll stretch a bit better if it's warm. Make sure you pull it well too, so see how it thins the strip out. If you keep it on there too thick, you'll coat all the way up and just have like a little bit of window here to see into the dish. So try to keep some space in the center of the dish open so you can see what's inside. That's why doubling over helps too, to cut down on the amount. I didn't stick well. Keep the end that's still opened up towards the flow hood. There. Go ahead, put these back in this bag. Now the only reason I can put these in this bag is because it has this filter patch right here that'll let it breathe, allow it to breathe. You don't want to put them in a sealed bag. Set them in there. If you want, you can take a marker, mark the date on it, what it is. Make sure you stay organized. And I'll take the same clip. Make sure that filter's still there. And I can set this in the shelf in this room, where it's about anywhere between kind of upper 60s, low 70 degrees, house temperature. And I'll check in on it in about 3 to 5 days, and hopefully we'll see some growth and I can start making my first transfers away from this dish, because you really need to make a transfer, at least one transfer, to prove that you have a clean culture. And hopefully we'll see some very dense white growth of king oyster mycelium.